Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Liu. I am a mental fitness coach. Thank you so much for joining me on this day 11 of this video series on building mental fitness. Now, yesterday, it was the last session or video that I talked about the saboteurs. I talked about the last two accomplice saboteurs. Now, today, I want to switch gears and talk about the other part of us, which I talked about in the first couple of videos, which is called the sage. Now, the sage lives in a very different part of our brain than the saboteur. So we talked about the saboteur is part of our left brain, part of the limbic system and the brainstem, whereas the sage lives in the right side of our brain and it's part of the middle prefrontal cortex, as well as the empathy circuitry. And the sage is what helps us to generate all the positive emotions as opposed to the saboteur generating negative emotions. And when I talk about positive emotions, it's not necessarily just joy and happiness, although those are part of the positive emotions. Here, I'm also talking about emotions like empathy for yourself, for others, or curiosity, or creativity, or passion and purpose, and taking laser focused action and feeling of certainty, right? So all of these are positive emotions. And I think we would all agree if we felt more of these emotions, we would consider us to have a much better life than if we felt a lot of the negative emotions, like what we talked about: stress, anxiety, anger, self-doubt, self-pity, shame, guilt, etc. Right. So if we're all able to access that sage more, then we're able to have more of these emotions. And the good news about the sage is that that's actually the true part of us. That's our essence. The saboteurs are things that have been developed, or behavioral or thought patterns that have been developed over the years to protect us, to keep us safe. Whereas the sage, that's the part that we're born with. That's our essence. It has always been with us and it always will be. However, what happens is, as we are living in this real world full of dangers, oftentimes we develop these saboteurs and they become almost part of us. We mistake the thoughts and the feelings that are generated by the saboteurs as the real us. And so we don't even know who that real sage is underneath all of that saboteur noise, right? And that's what we're here to talk about, is how can we remove some of those noises from the saboteur and get deep into that sage that has so many amazing powers, that has the ability to generate all these positive emotions. All right. So I'm certainly going to talk about the 5 sage powers, and that's going to be in the next few videos. But today, I just want to first talk about the perspective of the sage, because the saboteurs, they have a perspective, and their perspective is everything needs to be judged as good or bad, right? And it also generates a certain feeling when something is good or bad. If it's bad, then it generates all kinds of negative emotions. We talked about all of those. And so, whereas the sage, on the other hand, is saying, well, anything that happens, no matter on the surface being good or bad, can be turned into a gift and opportunity, right? Think about this. Now, if anything happens in your life, and even though at first you think it's bad, then you apply this sage perspective and you say, hey, this bad thing can be turned into a gift and opportunity. Imagine how your life would change. And I know now your saboteurs may be going crazy and saying, how can you say that? Some things that happen are just bad. There is nothing good or no gift or opportunity in that. And that's absolutely what the saboteurs will say. However, if you're able to get into this wise part of you, this compassionate, wise, full of empathy, full of all these courage, amazing qualities, if you're able to get into that part, that is absolutely true, that anything that happens can be turned into a gift and opportunity if you're willing to do it. Right? So let's just try to explore this perspective a little bit. And before we do that, I want to just tell you a quick little story. It's a fable from China, from thousands of years ago, from Daoist China. And I think it can illustrate this point of this sage perspective. So there was a farmer in China that lived in this village, and he has this prized possession, which is this stallion, this beautiful horse that he loves so much. And one day he enters the stallion into a competition, and the stallion wins first prize. And so the farmer brings the stallion home, and the neighbors find out, and they come and congratulate the farmer, saying, that's amazing that your stallion won first prize. And the farmer says, who knows what is good and what is bad? Now, the neighbors are a little puzzled. They don't really understand what this means, but they go away. And then a week passes. Now, the thieves in the village also get a hold of the news that the stallion won first prize. And so they come and steal the stallion. And now the neighbors get hold of the news, and they come and send the farmer condolences and says, so sorry that your stallion has been stolen. And the farmer again says, who knows what is good and what is bad? Now, another week passes. The stallion is really strong-spirited, and he breaks away from his captors, and he comes back to the farmer. And along the way, he befriends a bunch of mares, wild mares, and brings them home with him as well. And so now the neighbors find out again, and they come and congratulate the farmer. And the farmer again says, who knows what is good and what is bad? Now, another week passes. Now, the farmer has a young adult son, and the son decides to tame one of the mares by trying to ride her. And in the process of doing so, the mare, very strong-spirited, throws him off the horse, and the son breaks his leg. And again, the neighbors find out, and they come to the farmer and send their condolences, saying, I'm so sorry your son broke his leg. And the farmer again says, who knows what is good and what is bad? Now, another week passes. There's a war that breaks out in the region, and the imperial army comes to all the villages and searches for all males of a certain age to demand them to go join the army and fight the war. And because the farmer's son has a broken leg, he's now exempt from going to the war. Now, the neighbors don't even bother coming anymore to congratulate the farmer because they know what he's going to say. Now, what is the farmer going to say? You probably know this as well. Who knows what is good and what is bad? Now, Shirzad Chamine talks about this story in his book, Positive Intelligence. And I think it has so much profound wisdom in this story, where something that is on the surface good, well, sometimes can turn into something that's bad. And something that's on the surface bad can turn into something that is good. And so you notice how the neighbors are all very quick at making conclusions about what's good and what's bad, whereas the farmer simply said, I don't know. I don't know whether it's good or bad. Who knows? And the only difference between the attitude of the farmer in this story and a true sage perspective is the farmer, has a little bit of this passive attitude, just kind of waits around for good things to happen or for bad things to turn into good. Whereas the sage is actually not passive at all. And out of the 5 sage powers, there may be 1 or 2 that you may think is kind of passive. However, there are so many that are very action-oriented, that are very much about, now that quote unquote bad thing happened, what am I going to do about it? So we're going to get into those 5 powers. But first, I just wanted to tell this story, and I hope you remember it, to illustrate that from the sage perspective, anything can be good or bad. And so now that last question is, which perspective is true? Is it the saboteur perspective that some things are either good or bad? Or is it the sage perspective that anything can be turned into a gift, an opportunity, no matter how bad you believe it is at first? Now, which perspective is true? The answer is whichever one you believe. Now, that's the good news, because now you can choose to believe in the sage perspective and turn anything that is bad into something is good. And we also talked about this muscle of self-command, this ability to command your mind to believe whether something is good or bad and to get yourself out of any negative emotion. So the stronger that muscle is, the quicker you're able to turn something that is on the surface bad into a gift and opportunity. So that's how we build the muscles stronger and stronger. All right, so I will leave it here for today. I hope you got this idea of what this sage perspective is. And don't worry if your saboteur is now really alerted and saying this is not true. And if you do believe that, let me know as well, So there may be a part of you that says, no, there's some things that are just absolutely bad. And let's see if over this course of these videos and over the course of you contemplating, and you could actually believe that perhaps everything can be a gift and opportunity, no matter how bad it is. And we can certainly get into much more of this. I know this is complex. This is perhaps also different from what you have believed in so far. And so just sit on it, and I would love to hear your comments and questions. And I did get a question yesterday from one of my previous videos asking about, how is there a test to measure our mental fitness? And remember, what's the definition of mental fitness, this PQ score, which is basically your ratio of sage to saboteur. And since we already started talking about the sage, I will link that test down below. And it just takes 2 minutes. It's even quicker than the saboteur test. And you can take it to see what your score is. And remember, the magic score is 75. So when you're at 75, that means for every negative emotion or every saboteur generated emotion, you have 3 positive emotion or sage generated emotion. All right, so go ahead, take a test, and let me know how it goes. And feel free to give me any comments, feedback, or questions that you have. I would absolutely love it. And thank you so much for watching today. And tomorrow I will tell you about remember the sage saying everything can be a gift and opportunity. So what are these gifts that the sage believes in? So I'll get into that. Okay, thanks so much for watching, and I really hope to see you tomorrow. Bye for now. Take care.